Hello Mouses! Today I want to talk about some really rather disturbing leaflets that Ukip, the UK Independence Party, have been putting out in Staffordshire. These leaflets are truly awful for various reasons, but let's start off with the claim that apparently lots of Romanian gypsies are training their children to pickpocket, thieve and beg in order to prepare them for coming to Britain in 2014. Now, can we say this is true? No, of course we can't. It's marginalising an entire group. It's suggesting that an entire group of people are planning to come here and steal, beg on the streets and pickpocket money off you because they're preparing to come for a life of benefits in the UK. Well, let's face it, an entire group of people being marginalised is nothing new. UKIP are weird, but we've seen this from other groups as well in the past, and it's never come out well. I don't believe what they're saying at all, and I don't think any of you should either. Now, I will say right now that I'm not a member of UKIP. I will never vote for them. I am a member of the Conservative Party, but I'm going to put party issues aside for the moment and just look at the claims that they are making on this leaflet from a very neutral perspective. Now, the stuff about gypsies, I can't believe they're still, for a start, using the word. I'm using it here, of course, because I want to make sure that I'm talking about the same group that they are. It's a word that is very loaded, and they're perpetuating stereotypes by using it and associating it with certain types of behaviour. There aren't millions of people waiting to swarm into Britain in 2014 to go on benefits. You can't do that. That's not how the benefits system works. It's not how European integration works. In order to come here and work, you need to be able to show that you can actually come here and work and live without going on to benefits for a certain amount of time. Otherwise, you're not allowed in, even if you're a member of the European community. EU integration hasn't meant that people can just jump to a different country and go on benefits straight away. That's not how it works. And we fought a long time for that protection because of this rampant stereotyping and fear-mongering in the press. And I don't like the fact that UKIP are perpetuating it now. So, okay, let's leave that aside and go on with some of the other claims that they're making. If you hear noises in the background, it's because we're having a new alarm system installed in the house because of the recent double burglary. Okay, another claim that they're making on this leaflet is that in 1942 a Nazi conference was held in order to work out how the EU would be created and implemented. This is entirely false. A few years ago I read a very interesting book that is rather Eurosceptic. It's called The Great Deception, Can the European Union Survive? And it's very, very interesting. But, like I say, although for the majority of it, it's a historical book that quotes all of its sources and is very neutral, it does have a slight Eurosceptic bent to it. So, if anything's going to be on the side of UKIP, it's going to be something that has a slight Eurosceptic edge. This book does not support the idea of a Nazi conference on the development of the European Union in 1942. There was a Nazi conference in 1942. They did discuss the idea of European integration. However, Hitler had beforehand banned all organisations that were looking into European integration, and at the end of the conference he put out a decree on the 4th of November 1942 that stated, and I'm quoting from some notes, "Planning, preparation and execution of a European or international kind must cease." The Nazi Party did not have a conference on creating and implementing the European Union. The entire idea of the European Union doesn't come about until the 1970s. In fact, and it's all backed up by research in this book and in the memoirs of the people who were there at the time, I'm going to read off this now. The EU was first named at a summit in Paris on the 18th of October 1972. The source for this is Edward Heath's memoirs, which are called The Course of My Life, on page 391. Edward Heath was the British Prime Minister who attended the Paris summit in 1972 and discussed the idea of the European Union. So if anyone knows what happened there, it will be him. This is where the European Union comes from. It's not a Nazi idea at all. It's from the 70s. And it's worth noting that they actually had the idea that they were going to have full European integration with a single currency by the end of the 70s. Yeah, that didn't work out. So, there you go. A second thing that is totally wrong on this leaflet. Okay, the final thing is I want to talk about this number that UKIP is putting out in this leaflet about the number of people who died in Britain in the first half of the 20th century. Now, let's just leave aside the fact that it's completely wrong because they seem to only be counting wars and focus on the wars. You've got to look at it from this point of view. There apparently just over 1.2 million people died in the first half of the 20th century in Britain. That is an amazingly low figure. So we're going to have to assume that they're talking about wars only, because more people than that have died. I'll tell you that straight off. Just off the top of my head, I can think of, that's 50 years worth of deaths annually, before modern medicine really kicked in and took over and started expanding the life expectancy. So it has to be either completely wrong and pulled out of their arse, or only talking about wars. So let's have a look at how it adds up. The British death toll for World War I, according to BBC, is 886,342 people dead, including 24 MPs. Now, Ukip suggests that there were 45 parliamentarians who died in the first half of the 20th century, which is completely wrong. They've got to be talking about parliamentarians who died in wartime, because more parliamentarians died than just these 45. Otherwise, it would be like, what on earth? How are these people in Parliament managing to stay alive? General death tolls would be more than that. The death toll for World War II, according to the BBC, is 383,667 dead, including 22 MPs. The total, therefore, is 1,270,009 people dead, including 46 MPs. Let's see how that compares to UKIP's claims. UKIP claim 1,242,944 British people died in the first half of the 20th century, including 45 parliamentarians. They can't even add to 46. That's just amazing. How are these people expecting to be able to do anything of any actual worth in the country if they can't add 46 people? The names of these 46 people are listed on the internet, very easy to find. If you just type in British MPs who died in battle, you get a list of their names, their ranks, and where they represented on Wikipedia and several other websites that Wikipedia is linking to. So it's 5 minutes of research and they couldn't even do that. Everything on this leaflet is wrong. And to be quite fair with you, anyone who's listening to this leaflet really, really needs to think twice about what they're doing. So thank you for listening. If you did like this, remember to click the like button, share it with your friends so that they can see just what level some people will stoop to for political purposes, and subscribe for future videos because there will be more in the future. But until next time, I've been Kirk-Robinson. You've been watching a video, and I'll see you tomorrow.